Hello BookTube, Books with Banks back again with another video. Today I'm going to be doing another book review. I will actually be reviewing the entire Broken Earth trilogy today, this trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. This trilogy consists of the 5th season, the Obelisk Gate, and the Stone Sky. Book 3, all published between 2015 and 2017 by Orbit Books. Before getting too far into it though, a couple of real quick notes. First of all, if you haven't already and you enjoy what I do here, it would mean a lot if you could pretty please like and subscribe. Second, I will try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible, and for anyone who's read these books, you probably can assume then that I won't be going into too much detail with the review. It would really simply just be too hard to give a detailed reaction without ruining a newcomer's first experience. Anyway, here goes. First, what is this trilogy about? So the Stillness is this large landmass, this large continent, and is for the most part the setting of these 3 books. The world, as our characters know it, has been plagued by these seasons, of which the 5th season in any set is usually the worst. These seasons have been going on for millennia. A season is basically an environmental catastrophe. Now, the Imperials and centralized government rules from the capital city of Eumenes, and they basically run the whole show. All across this continent, you have these smaller khans, really just smaller cities or communities, and everyone's job title in this world is part of their name, and the most prestigious professions are logically then the professions that are basically, they do the most to ensure any khan's chance of survival for whenever the next catastrophe hits, whenever the next season arrives. Also, in this world, you have these people known as Origines. I believe I have that pronunciation right, Origines. And these Origines, they have a magical connection to the Earth and like the literal geology all around them, being able to control these geological forces. However, these Origines are feared and hated by the common people that don't have these powers, and they're hated because theory has, or popular belief holds, that if these Origines go unwatched or go untrained, they can destroy the Earth, cause more harm than good, and kill tons of people. And it actually immediately called to mind like the X-Men, but like particularly how they're treated in Chris Claremont's era. That obviously develops more and more as the series goes on, and I'm not sure by the end of it I would still make that same comparison, but at first that's what it reminded me of. Now, as the series and even the first book progresses, we see that the racist hate thrown at these Origines is quite violent and severe. In fact, our first book examines 3 characters. One named Demaya, a young girl who goes into training, or is abducted and taken into training in Eumenes, that capital city. And she's taken into training there so that her powers can be controlled. Then there's a second Origin character named Cyan, I believe, and she's investigating mysteries of the world, including these like strange floating giant obelisk pillars, these floating things in the sky. And then last but not least, our third character is a mother and an Origin, and her name is Esun. And she's setting out. The first book begins like this. She's setting out to find her daughter and her husband, who's recently killed killed her son. And so she's doing that in the wake of that sort of smaller scale at-home tragedy, but that's also in the wake of this larger scale coming of one of these super disastrous 5th seasons. So in the first book, all 3 of these characters, they encounter racism at different ages, different kind of positions in life, different communities, and like 3 very unique locations. In this way, Jemisin tackles the heavy issues of racism across a variety of groups and settings, and yeah. Also, there is a gender aspect as well, as all 3 of our protagonists are female. And again, that's the focus of the first book. But then moving into books 2 and 3, while the compelling focus on racism and hatred still persists, Jemisin lets her characters, and in turn her readers, us, in on more and more of the mysteries and fascinating lore of this world that she's constructed. Many of these mysteries have to do with the Earth itself being abused by mankind, but there are also mysteries about this group called the Guardians, who are basically those characters who are introduced to us as the ones who hunt down Origin children like Demaya and enslave them to the government. But there's more to them, to these Guardians, than we first are made aware of. There's also a bizarre and just beautiful sci-fi fantasy creation called the Stone Eaters, this sort of unique race kind of. And I don't want to say too much more about them because I don't want to spoil anything. And I want, if you're new to this trilogy, I want you to be surprised by what they are, what they do, how they fit in, and as the trilogy progresses, you'll find out more and more about these Stone Eaters. The main questions and driving kind of force behind the trilogy move through, I would say, 3 phases. So first, we're asking, how do these characters survive this most recent environmental tragedy, catastrophe? What are they going to do to survive? Then next, we're asking, how might these characters go about trying to stop these seasons and the current way the world is from happening ever again? Not just surviving the more immediate thing going on, but what can be done for the future. And then finally, the third kind of big question that the series moves towards is, how did these seasons even begin in the first place? What racist and environmentally and ignorant ideologies led the world to get to the horrible point that it's at now? So all in all, and again without spoiling anything, I will say I did love this trilogy. In particular, the aspects of the story told from the slightly odd, second person point of view, begging questions of why are we reading this section this way, this unusual way. I also found any storylines that explored the history of this world, and I would say I enjoyed those storylines and the little bits of lore thrown in all throughout. I enjoyed all of that a good deal more than the sections in which characters are just kind of trekking across barren post-apocalyptic landscapes, trying to survive. That type of travel, journey type of story has never been a particular story type that has ever been able to hook me or engage me too much, and those long traveling sections didn't quite grip me here as much as the interesting world building and perspective hopping that Jemisin plays around with. Anyway, I highly recommend this series to anyone, especially anyone eager for more fantasy or sci-fi that deals with racism and or environmentalism. Also, if you're curious to see ways in which perspective can be manipulated and utilized to bolster the impact of a story. If any of that sounds interesting to you, please don't hesitate. Definitely give N.K. Jemisin's Broken Earth trilogy a try. All that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.